Mirthmobile. I think we'll go with a little
Mixtape Monday.
Exit to each other. Party on, dudes!
next party on!
Party on, Wayne!
Party on, guy.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to, I think this is episode 6 of Mixtape Mondays, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, as always, I have my co-host Roman here with me, and then I guess also co-host Steven. He's kind of become our regular staple as well. But yeah, let's just real quick before we jump into it, let's just go through the chat. It looks like Zach's jumped in early, but I think he might have had to take off. So thanks for dropping by on the pre-show there. We had Chef Nick Nero, which, yes, I agree. And we're going to kind of get into that a little bit as well. Nerdporial, what is up? Thank you so much for tuning in and being here. We of course have Matt, the Thad that shouldn't be. Jacob Ironside, good evening to you as well, sir. We've got Jay the Deep Minded in here. Hello to you. And I think that is it.
Don't forget about Mags.
So far. And there's Mags. She jumped in there during the intro. What is up, Mags? All right, everybody. So thank you all so much for tuning in. So as that brief little intro suggested, we're going to touch just a little bit because it is here the day after 9/11, 21 years later. And I kind of thought about I was going to maybe go in and do a little more of an in-depth kind of photo montage, music, whatever stuff. But then I thought, like, well, you know, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. We've all kind of done I remember where I was when it happened. We've seen the photos, we've talked about it. And the idea is never forget. So that is, you know, kind of where we're going with it, is to never forget. But I figured we'd spend more time actually talking about it than just putting up imagery. Yeah. So yeah, I think the general topic that we wanted to tackle at this point was less about the, you know, okay, never forget, which sadly I think a lot of people have, or they've just decided that it doesn't matter or whatever. But the contrast now, over 20 years later, of September 11th, 2001, you know, I mean, the world stopped. Everything stopped. Sporting events, concerts, air travel, obviously. Literally, like, everything just came to a screeching halt. But when it did start to come back, when you would turn on a baseball game, when you would go to a concert, when, you know, just like there were American flags everywhere, people were talking about, you know, that other famous I was about to say hashtag, but I don't know if Twitter was around back then. I can't remember. But the famous, you know, the United We Stand. Everyone was united. Everyone loved America. Everyone was pro-America. And now
I think no, you're 100% right, dude. So think about the contrast. It's been 21 years since September 11th, 2001. How long was it when we, you know, remember Pearl Harbor? Remember there was that tiny event that happened in 1941? That was never not a big deal. And then, you know, that was 70 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. Now we're 21 years away from the that Nexus event. And I would say probably certainly the last couple of years, because the last couple of years have been peculiar, to say nothing. But the slide has been going. I think it's been ramped up just like everything else has, as far as how the attitude towards the country has changed so much. Now, let's let's say 9/11 never happened at that point, and it happened now. Based on the feeling of the country now, how would that event be perceived? How would it be reported? Um, I don't think, and this is my opinion only, I don't think you would have that same come together moment.
Mm-hmm.
As horrible, and as uniting as that event was, I don't think you get that today.
Yeah.
They somehow they would blame others within the country for why this happened, and all of the things they're doing basically with everything else that's going on right now.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, because there was some left-leaning sentiment during September 11th. I remember I was listening to NPR almost religiously as the moment was ramping up, because Bush and the whole Gore hanging Chad thing was still a big deal in the country. It was still part of the main conversation in the nation. So there was some divide going on there. But it all quieted down. And I remember, that morning in Los Angeles, it was like the quietest I had ever heard the city before in my life. It was so dead quiet. The only thing equivalent was the recent Koof lockdown. Was very similar. That same, you'd be driving down the street and you're like, where is everybody? Did everybody just die or something? It was so creepy. But there was some irregular sentiment. And nowadays, if something like that had happened, in present day or in the last 5 years, they would have blamed it on the Russians, ironically enough.
You're probably not wrong.
It's Putin's fault now.
Yeah.
Well,
or we would have done this spin doctor thing where we would have blamed, we would have sympathized with the Afghanis somehow.
Well, it's funny. Like I've seen memes in recent years, and this was actually even before all the nonsense of the last 2 or 3 years. But people saying it's probably a good thing that aliens don't try to come and invade the Earth, because at this point they'd probably have their own advocacy group. Like they would be coming here to exterminate the population, but there'd still be out there. The people will be out there like protesting for the rights of the extraterrestrials that are here to kill us.
Right.
So here, Nerdporial says, so I think that was the first time air travel ever came to a complete halt. I mean, in my lifetime, that's and then of course all the new laws, rules, and regulations that have come since then, and just I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to travel a lot for work. And I'm just barely old enough to remember a time where like we could walk all the way up to the gate and see him off without a ticket. That's not a thing anymore. Thad, and I get it.
Thad has a good comment up here regarding it's the our good friend Matt. People look at it as a historical event rather than the life experience. And I think he's not wrong there to a degree. I say to a degree, though, because like I said, starting this out, Pearl Harbor is still an event we look back on and still, feel emotion about that, even though we weren't, we were far from alive at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But this is different. And why is this different? Probably because the political climate of the country has changed so much So our generation remembers this. I remember it very clearly. My son was only a year old, but because he is my son, he knows all of these things and he feels, not in a different way than I do. Now that isn't the same necessarily for everybody of his generation and the people who were yet to be born. It depends is the sad short answer to that. It depends on the parenting. And depends on how, lunatic-y the ice cream man is driving by. I'm sorry.
Are they here to pick you up, Roman, for tonight's duties?
They may. So I think probably the people who no longer care about 9/11 in that context are probably the same people who were wearing masks alone in their cars.
That or it's the same people who always said it was an inside job and that we shouldn't be patriotic because of what happened.
Hey, I consider that subject very, very serious. And regardless of whether or not it was an inside job, it still happened to 3,000 plus of us. And there's several hundred million that experienced it live on TV. So regardless of how it happened,
I feel like people throw it out that, oh, it was an inside job, like that just negates the massive loss of life. And
the Atlantic chastised people for saying that. And their reason for chastising people is very different than you think it is.
Right.
They are chastising people because that makes it sound like, they weren't capable of doing it on their own. They, them, that group. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
They weren't, so I'm supposed to be sympathetic and think, wow, what an ingenious group of men. This is why we are in the state we are in now, and why 9/11 is a afterthought at best.
I was having dinner with a couple of people that were visiting from Scotland, with some theater friends of mine when this all went down, and he totally ripped me a new one because I said exactly that same thing, that I said it seems more like it was done, that it was strategically handled by some outside party, and that it wasn't entirely the responsibility of these Afghan people. And he ripped me a new one because he said exactly what you said, that, oh, why? You don't think they're capable of such a thing? And I'm just like, what the hell?
100% exactly. I don't even, if we're in the same room and you're saying that, I don't know what my physical response is, because I know what I want to do. That's one of the most absurd things that I have heard in some time, and I've heard an awful lot of absurd things. Especially,
well, I was embarrassed at the dinner party because, I brought up a subject that was a little taboo at the time. And here's this guy who is basically the reason why the rest of the people are there, basically ripping me a new one. So I was like, I was a little embarrassed for the people in the party. I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry I even brought it up. I'm so sorry. Jesus. That's when I started saying, divided we fall, because we weren't. There were sections of California that were very divided over this. It didn't unite California. I saw firsthand the slow growth and evolution of what we're experiencing right now, because I was attached to theater, I was attached to entertainment, and I was living in a hotbed of liberalism in California. So I got to see all of this firsthand. The anti-Bush delusional thing was going on in California long before Trump ever even was respected for office. So it's been a long road for me, and we were still chewing on Star Wars at that point.
Yeah, so let's see, catch up on the chat here real quick here. So Mag said that 9/12 was the most pro-American day I'd ever seen. Agreed. And even months following.
Well, even I would say, I mean, it took a minute for them to start chewing at each other again after that. I don't know if you remember when they all came out, and I think they sang God Bless America. It was the Congress. Both sides of the Congress came out and sang. I may be incorrect. It may have been God Bless America or America the Beautiful. One of those two. It wasn't the national anthem because that's too hard for them to sing. So it was one of those other two songs. But it was the entirety of the Congress. It wasn't one side. And you know which side it would have been now. So it's the division of the country has we couldn't even, I don't think we could have conceived of how far the division would have grown back in 2001 to where we are now. I certainly never thought that it would be the way it is now.
No. The last 20 years, the last 21 years have been shocking to watch develop before our eyes. It's and I've said this before. I'm going to continue to say it too. It's like most of the things that they're talking about, I'm completely on board for, you know, anti-racism, anti-prejudice, anti-sexism, you know, all of these things, including the transformation of your body. I'm a full believer that people should be entitled to do whatever they want with their own body, freedom of choice, there it is. And yet I don't like the tactics. I don't like the way
Right.
they're just pouring gasoline down the center aisle and
It's
dividing
because
the
it's not.
population.
It's not what they, Stephen. It's because it's not what they're presenting it as.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
100% not what it is.
It's
It's
an
not
attack.
about racism. It's not about sexism.
That's
It's about
right.
none of these things. It's about control. It's always been about control and turning
Yep.
people against each other, which is part of that control.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I'm
if
just
you
a
can
troll in a garage, probably having heat stroke right now. I don't even know what I'm saying.
if you can continue to push a narrative that, like you're saying, has a good message behind it, it's like, no, it's like we shouldn't be divided, we should all get along, we should all love each other, stuff. But if they can push that narrative, but from the perspective of, oh well, these people are keeping you down, or these people are, you know, whatever,
Yes.
like it's manufactured to keep us divided under the guise of trying to push something that is a good thing.
Right. Right.
And you know,
Yet
I
there's
think
no
we're
road
the-
of good intention here at all.
No,
Right.
no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not the road to hell paved with. No,
It's you know,
the
they
intention
just,
is very much calculated for what it is doing.
Yeah, and
I
I,
mean,
find
I've
it.
gotten
These
into
things to be happening.
I've
Yeah,
gotten into
John.
discussions just within the last couple of weeks with friends over different topics, but the initial topic is irrelevant. What initially ended up happening was I was trying to have a civil conversation with someone and gave a very well thought out response, and all they could come back is, you're an ist, you're a phobe, you're asserting this, you're a that, you're a whatever. And I'm like, well, we're no longer having a conversation anymore.
Right.
As soon as you start dropping all of your talking points and your buzzwords and your name calling, it's like, this isn't a
Mhm.
conversation. Like, you want equality, fine, okay, I get it. Like, I want equality, I want everyone to be treated equally regardless of how they look or what the, and you know, all that stuff. But it's like, once you start dropping all like the name calling, it's like, you're a this, a you're a that, a you're a whatever. It's like, this isn't a conversation anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I
think
find
the
it
topic
really
we're gonna-
ironic. I find it really ironic that the group that is most on board with the current leftist movement is also the most closeted and insecure group on the planet.
Yeah.
They don't know what their body should be. They don't know what their sexuality should be. They're afraid of their own racial characteristics. They're intimidated by other racial characteristics and cultures. It's really strange that the most intimidating group in this question is also the most insecure and childlike.
Yeah. And that's a Nerdporial just hit it right there too. I said the same thing about the particular topic in question that I was discussing with a friend. We were talking about the student loan forgiveness thing. And I just said, after my very well written, very well thought out response, I said, this is where we're at. It's everything is someone else's fault. Everyone is a victim. There's no such thing as personal responsibility or accountability anymore. Like, so exactly this. It's everything as you come down, you just blame everyone else for your problems.
I think the topic we're going to go into after this, John, is very related to everything we're talking about right now.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you, Stephen, you're old enough, John. You may have been too young. When they did, remember they did a fucking concert for everything back then, and they did it was a big concert for the I think it was in support of the firefighters. Very shortly after September 11th happened. And Richard Gere, talented actor, came out on stage and was trying to. This is an arena full of firefighters and their families, trying to come out and say, you know, it may not be the time for thinking about revenge. And motherfucker got booed off the stage. This is a concert for these guys, and I can't even imagine them throwing something like that now. I can imagine someone coming out and saying something like now, but the arena would erupt in applause, but not if it was full of firefighters still. But it's a mindset difference that is almost irreconcilable after these many years.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to go with it.
Yeah. I got to tell
Jacob
you
Ironside.
guys. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, I was going to say Jacob Ironside posted, don't stop having the conversation because as soon as they start name calling, you've won. Yes, but, and the but comes in the form of, did I? No, not necessarily. The thing is, and John and I have had this conversation many a time. You can't try to have a logical conversation with someone who is not bringing forward logical points.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to just this wall of impassibility because they aren't reading logic anymore. Nothing
They're
that's
not listening
happened
anymore.
has been logical. If you try to understand anything that they've done recently with logic, your head is going to explode because it doesn't make sense, because it's not supposed to make sense.
Right. Which is probably the reason why I can't get over the idea that this is an attack. It's a psyop. It's a gigantic psyop because that's what it feels like. It feels like a logic attack. I'm sure IT guys would know exactly what I'm talking about. You play something irrational into an entirely rational system, and it begins to malfunction. It begins to show breakdowns and misfires and misreads, and all of a sudden the hard drive just says, "I'm done. See you later. No more a computer."
And a lot of these events that we were speaking of, if 9/11 had never happened, I don't think we would be living in the world that we are living in today, because many of the mechanisms that the government has available to it now are a result of that.
Yeah.
In other administrations, whether it was put forth in good faith or not back then, other administrations have used it in not good faith. And that's because they have these things available to them now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I warned about the Patriot Act. I said, all of these executive orders are, they're really interesting. But remember, presidents only last 4 years and you don't know who you're going to get next. So you're giving these powers to them. And you know what? Some of the recent administrations have used them to their advantage, to their great advantage. I think Obama probably used it more than anybody.
Well, and
all
I mean,
the
I think we
activities of the
saw
Patriot Act.
I think we saw a lot of it even throughout this, the virus of unknown origins. It's like on one hand, maybe Trump was over here doing some stuff that people didn't like and they all wanted to cry foul and he's doing this and this and this. But like as soon as Biden got in office, like how many executive orders did he do within a very short amount of time? And all of a sudden it was okay. It's like, okay, so we've just given him this magic wand, executive order. So you're mad when it's the other guy, but when it's your guy, you're like, this is fine.
Yeah. Yep. And that's how somebody in Germany got into office way back when.
Yeah.
But this is also why September 11th is an afterthought for a lot of people now.
Yeah.
All of these things, all of these many things have led to.
Well, Roman, you remember the whole conversation about the MTV industry and how the adults at the time were saying you're shortening people's attention span with this type of media, right? You remember that whole conversation? Well, it's only gotten worse. Everything is now directed by MTV directors. So the short-term memory and the short-term, ability to view media has gotten so much worse that YouTube is now promoting shorts.
Yes.
So where is our attention span now? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, like a goldfish.
So how could they possibly remember what happened a year ago, much less 21 years ago? And most of the people in the conversation are barely 21 years old.
Yeah, so it's scary.
It's strange. But before we get way off of this, I wanted to mention I had an aunt who was working in one of the financial offices in one of the Twin Towers. And she was in the building when the first plane hit. She felt the building move. They cleared everything. They said, it looks like that's it. She got down to the ground floor because she's like, I'm not staying. They were all basically saying, oh, we got the full clear from the FBI. We're going to stay. They all died. Everybody who stayed died. She got downstairs to the lobby and looked out from the lobby onto the street and said, Did they just paint the street red?
Oh,
This is
wow.
before all the dust settled. There was no dust settled just yet because the buildings hadn't collapsed. She said the streets were so red with blood that it looked like somebody spray painted the street with bright red.
Wow.
wow.
And that was just from the 2 hits from the planes. That was it. Those are all the passengers and anybody who died on those floors and anybody who jumped out the window when the plane, finally started going on fire.
Mm-hmm.
They were paid. They had painted the street with their mortality. So that's how close this was to me. It was my aunt, my first aunt was in there. My father's mother's daughter.
Wow.
Father's mother's sister-in-law's daughter or something like that. But yeah, really, really close at hand. And she said it was horrible. It was like she lost dozens and dozens of coworkers that day because they decided to stay at work.
Wow.
Wow.
So I will never forget that imagery. That imagery is plastered on my mind through my bloodline. It's I will never, ever, ever forget that she, 2 or 3 seconds indecision, and she would have been one of the fatalities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Ooh.
So at that point, it doesn't matter who did it, as far as I'm concerned. It happens.
Right. Yeah. That's again, it comes down to whether you think the American government staged it, it was an inside job, whether it wasn't, whatever. It's like there was still massive loss of life. Like that doesn't negate the fact that thousands upon thousands of lives were affected.
And the entire way the country has moved forward ever since.
Well, the consolidation of our intelligence apparatus into Homeland Security was probably what set the stage for what we're experiencing today, because there weren't separate intelligence agencies making sure that the other ones were all in line. They're all in one building now, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all under one set of regulations. So the FBI can't track the CIA can't track the NSA can't track the two of them and keep it all in secret. You know what I mean? Because they're all basically in one apparatus. So that's probably gumming up a lot of the works.
Yeah. Well, the last kind of like sort of odd story that I wanted to touch on before we moved on from this is again kind of talking about the weirdness of how, and I hate to say now that it was weird, but like the weirdness of just how patriotic everybody was shortly following this event. And as I said, like obviously a lot of sporting events already are a lot of sporting events, football, baseball, that they play the national anthem, they bring out the flag or whatever. And now you kind of have the thing where some of the guys kneel, they do the different things. But back then everyone was hat off, hand over the heart, recite the Pledge of Allegiance, patriotic pride. A concert that I was at of the band Slipknot, no less. You think, okay, for those of you that don't know, this is what these guys look like. And they're a bunch of monkeys running around in jumpsuits and masks, beating each other up and playing heavy music and blowing off pyrotechnics and whatever. I saw them in, I want to say probably 2002. And even at one point during their set, they dropped or moved their backdrop or whatever it was on the back of the stage. And it was a gigantic American flag that stretched the entirety of the back of the stage. And singer Corey Taylor was even giving a speech about how we need to be united and we need to love each other and we need to take care of each other. And I thought it was a good thing and also one of the weirdest things I've probably experienced, because you see a band that looks like this and you think, okay, they're going to come up, they're going to put on a show, they're going to whatever. But even then, a band like Slipknot was like, hey guys, like we all need to come together. Like that's one of the stranger memories that I have of people, just like this massive patriotic pride that we had following this. Like a Slipknot show, like a weird like sideshow circus metal show was still like, hey everybody, like we need to love each other. Like
so it's just like going to a Rage Against the Machine concert now.
You son of a bitch.
Yikes.
Oh, but remember, capitalism is bad, kids, even though they're probably making
Please pay us
shitload of money
$300 for a
on
ticket.
it. And so then also, I guess this to kind of like segue into our next topic. I'll go ahead and pull up Steven's tweet from earlier. Talking about why entertainers are liberal, why they're left-leaning, why they're socialist. I'm sure we've probably already been shadow banned for all the bad words we've been using, the big hard R words, the S words, whatever. But yeah, I thought your picture choice here, you got Charlie Chaplin, you got John Lennon, which really I think probably all of the Beatles were kind of in line together, and then U2. Obviously, we've already
U2,
talked
the abortion
about
kings of Ireland.
we've already talked about Dropkick Murphys last Thursday, and then my video that I did. Which, funny enough, my video about Dropkick Murphys, now the views keep going up, but it has by far the most downvotes of any video I've put out. So
Yeah,
apparently,
you're getting the hate, brother.
people don't like the fact that me actually being a working class blue collar guy, I don't like being lectured by a guy on stage saying that he's working class people, but I don't know. I'm getting downvotes for it. I don't know why.
You've made it. You're there.
I'm getting there.
Well,
I'm trying to piss off people and just, get that hate mail.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. The reason why I put up these three shots was because I didn't want to touch a single female entertainer, just to keep it. And two, that I wanted to show the length of the history of this idea as well. I mean, Charlie Chaplin was excommunicated the second he went back to England. Because he never applied for citizenship, and yet he considered the country to be a rotten thing that needed to be transformed by socialism. And he may have been right. At that point in time, we may have been able to develop a system in this country that was more socialist. We certainly adapted it with our police force, our fire department, our school system, Social Security. All of these things were legitimate things that happened after Charlie said these things. So, we were socialized in a lot of our framework, but not entirely, not with the labor parties. We had unions instead. The government hadn't centralized a federalized union for all labor, which might have been a smarter idea after World War II, but they were on such a patriotic Yankee independence hype that they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it to fly in the politics of the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 60s, we get, John Lennon and all of the people that were similar to that same opinion. And the odd part is that their ideas were extremely aggressive and radical, but they were handing out flowers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a
soften the blow.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's been this slow creep into the popular consciousness. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until like the 80s that we started to get the gay pride parades and all of that jazz starting to come in, where they were fist fighting in the streets with firemen because they weren't allowed to march in the St. Patty's Day parade. Yeah, I mean, do you remember those, Roman? I mean, do you remember those moments?
I remember.
So it's been slowly creeping at us.
Well, in the last several years, someone put their foot on the gas, and it's a free for all.
Yeah,
it's in all of these things, and musicians. I don't know. I think musicians have always had a certain leaning, not all. And again, I don't want to broad stroke. Why are you doing this? Sorry, that's actually not the TARDIS. That is just my phone, and I'm an ass.
I was going to say, is your fan freaking out, or like
they're breathing heavy?
Country musicians were largely conservative for a long time.
At least patriotic.
Yeah,
at least patriotic. No, that's true. Johnny Cash had a lot of beefs with the government, but Johnny Cash loved his country.
He loved America.
Yes,
and I don't think the same is true for a lot of the modern musician is neither patriotic in the classic sense. They may think they are. That whole defending democracy phrase makes me want to punch someone now, because it's not what they say it is. It's just a trope. It's just another freaking it's like clickbait. You need to say this. You need to say this now. But the modern musician, like I said, is neither patriotic in the classic sense, nor do they love their country.
Yeah, that's the real problem. It's like, I don't care if you have a problem with our government. You should have a problem with your government. It's your democratic right. It's your right as an American citizen to have issue with your government. That's the whole point of voting, right? We're a population of republics. But nowadays, there's so much hate for even patriotism, and it's openly hypocritical, because you're living in a capitalist system. You're driving down American streets. You're driving American cars. You're dealing with American laws. The apparatus that allows you to even speak freely is an American system. It's like, it's so hypocritical on its face.
Yeah. And that's the thing that comes down to it. It's like, you can have your different viewpoints and your different opinions, and we can agree or disagree, whatever. But as soon as it becomes this thing of like, oh, well, if you disagree with me, you're wrong. Or if you disagree, we're going to fight. Or if you disagree, whatever.
You're a fascist.
Like you said, it's like, go and, speak with your vote, like go and vote, go, do whatever. But
try.
Don't for 1 second try to sit here and act like, oh, well, just because you disagree with me, blah, blah, blah. I know we already did it on Thursday, and I've already been really pushing this video, but just to kick a dead horse, I don't know, we're gonna play this clip again from Dropkick Murphy's essentially saying exactly that. Perfect. He's like, if you disagree with me, I will fight your ass in the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, well,
bring it, fatty.
Yeah. No sound.
Audio es no aquí.
Problem number one. I am working class, people, and I don't feel like I need to listen to a guy on stage with a microphone who gets paid to tour the world and do something that he loves doing. If I'm able to work for a union and make a better life for myself as a working class person, I have to listen to him. Problem number one. I don't know why he's telling me I have to listen to him. That's like, before he even says anything else, I'm like, wait, why?
John, he is a performer. He knows better than you. Oh, and remember, he is also rich now, so he definitely knows better than you. So, geez, John, I don't even know.
We don't have audio, by the way, John. We don't have audio.
Oh, shit. Let's start over. Share.
And I've been getting some interesting videos. Somehow, my recommendations on YouTube are now showing me Dropkick Murphy videos from former concerts. One of them, a whole bunch of skinheads got on stage and basically like cheered him off.
Ooh, yeah, that's
John, what the fuck was that?
I don't know, but we're just I think I got audio now. Here we go.
Then listen to us.
Here we go.
If you were part of a union or working class people who were allowed to build a better life in the middle class in America, you fucking listen to us.
So again, that's where I stopped it the first time. He's talking about, if you can work for a union, if you're middle class, working class, you better listen to us. I'm like, okay, guy with the microphone on stage, let's continue.
Yeah.
Because if you're out there buying those fucking hats these swindlers are selling at that fucking fair, I'm sorry, kids, I know there's kids here, then you're part of the problem, and I'll tell you why. Because you're being duped by the greatest swindler in the history of the world. You're being duped by a bunch of grifters and billionaires who don't give a shit about you or your family.
Jesus Christ.
Tax breaks and the money they can put in their pocket. If you consider yourself a patriot and you're spouting off that election denying shit, I will fight your ass outside if you want to.
Unbelievable.
We're working class people. These people are the fucking rich, the billionaires, and they don't give a shit. Thank you.
So
you're working class
you know,
asshole.
like I keep harping on this video and I keep harping on the whole thing, and I just like I can't wrap my brain around the fact that he keeps saying we're working class people, you listen to us, and these billionaires, they don't care about you, they just care about the money they can put in their pocket. I'm like, how much money are you making off of this show right now?
Oh,
And I
yeah,
know
well,
I'm not saying that every band and every musician out there is rich. However, the Dropkick Murphys has been a band for almost 30 years. So if they're still going, they're making money off of it. Like,
yeah, well, how about Google? How about Twitter? How about Facebook? These aren't billion-dollar companies. What about
But
Disney?
those
What about
billionaires care
Microsoft?
about you.
It's
no
so
billionaires care
crazy.
about you.
They throw
So
these words around and categorize these groups, and yet they're basically earmarking their own groups at the same time. I mean, who produces Coca-Cola and Nike and Adidas? You know, come on.
Well, and so that was the other funny thing that I pointed out in the video that I did, was talking about, okay, he's talking about people out there buying those hats, which I thought it was funny. He wouldn't actually say it. He wouldn't actually say, oh, you're out there buying the MAGA hats and the whatever and stuff. Okay, you're buying the hats. You're being swindled. You're being duped. And we're working class people. I was like, okay, if you guys are pro-union, you claim you're patriots, you're pro-America, you're pro-working class, how much of your merchandise is made in America? I'd be willing to bet if I went to a concert or if I bought something on their website, every t-shirt, every hat, every beer koozie, everything that I could buy from them, probably made in China. But one of the first comments I got on this video was from some guy who, first of all, didn't watch the whole video because he automatically assumed I was a Trump supporter, which I clearly pointed out in the video I'm not. I don't like either side, basically, at this point. But he called me a fascist traitor and a this and a that and the whatever. And I was like, clearly you didn't watch the whole video, because even I said, I don't like the bad orange man, but he's got to be a hell of a lot better than where we are right now.
So sad.
I like a weak country and poverty and the potential of famine. I'm really digging what's going on right now. I think it's something that we should have been working towards, a while back. And man, they really derailed us over those last 4 years of prosperity. I'm glad we're back on track for famine and poverty, because I wasn't, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to get to live my golden years happy. And, but now I'm worried again, and I'm really happy to be worried about how it's all going.
I mean, I'm looking forward to GTA 5, which will be in our streets any second now.
Yeah, the live action version. Yes,
yeah, the live action reality series.
The LARP version of Grand Theft Auto. Brought to you by.
Just real quick, I want to kind of catch up on the chat, because there's some good stuff in here relating to the topic at hand here. We got Jay the Deep Minded saying, one reason the base personality traits associated with extreme creativity also lead to things like being progressive, anti-establishment, revolutionary, radical, etc. That I could actually probably respect to some point, back when punk bands truly were anti-establishment, like full anarchy. I might still disagree with their politics and them wanting to be full anarchy, but at least like they were legit, like they stood by what they're like, oh, they were anarchy, anti-establishment, whatever. No, Dropkick is not anti-establishment. They are for one of the establishments.
That's the
They're
problem.
They're both bad, but they're for one of them.
Yeah, not only that, but they condone violence, quite obviously.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'll fight your ass in the parking lot. I'd be like, really? Like, I'll fight you? You're like in your mid-50s, overweight, whatever. Let's go. Like,
yeah, that'll be a great video when I cry from the ground going, oh, you're so liberal. Oh, you're so progressive. Continue to beat me, sir, for being wrong. It's like, wow. Kick a man while he's down. It's not like the Republican Party is a big seller right now.
But then, we got Blair to Blair's in the chat. What is up, Blair?
Love me some Blair to Blair.
He says the arts in North America have always been seen as not a real profession or job. When artists go to a welcoming area like LA or the arts district of major cities, they create their own buddies, which I think Steven kind of actually talked on this a little bit earlier, and talking about, his days kind of in theater and seeing the differences of how LA was after 9/11. And
it's not just, other
New York
creative communities. New York is another one of these, where you have certain fields that, you know, of creativity are working in, which literally do have their own bubbles. And and if you can't talk about the things that we talk about any part of that community. It simply doesn't work. And you actually see that in mainstream Hollywood as well, with actors who are not part of that mindset, and how much work do they get, or how much bad press do they get about, is he a religious fanatic, is he a closet conservative? That's because
Oh.
that's their world, that's their weird effed up world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I
and Matt's
consider
got a good
myself to
point.
be a pretty creative guy, and have been for literally my entire life.
Yeah, indeed.
But somehow the logic switch didn't get switched off in my brain.
You
So
still work
I
for your bills, and you still pay your own bills, and you like.
and I used to
Well,
play out almost, like in all the clubs here in San Diego, and secret, everybody in the band also had the same idea. But you know what the funny thing is, what we never talked about while playing? Our fucking politics. And I think, and those are my favorite musicians and actors, are the ones where I have no idea what your politics are. You know why? Because I don't care. I don't care until you tell me. And then I care, but
Right.
not in the way that you were probably hoping.
Well,
Rage
yeah.
Against
and
the
again,
Machine, whom I've known they were wackadoo for a while, but now they're hysterical in how wackadoo they are, and how reverse, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. John, you and I have talked about the
about
the
this.
wild hypocrisy of that statement
Yeah.
in context of a Rage Against the Machine show, where you have to get the thing and wear the who's it, or show
Show your
the,
papers and
all the stuff, and pay out all the money.
yeah, and
They
again,
are the machine.
It is that funny thing again too, of like I again said in my standalone video that I did, in that for a long time I've been a fan of Dropkick Murphys. For a long time I've been a fan of Flogging Molly. I love that like Irish punk, Celtic punk sound and stuff, and it's very obvious to see what their politics are if you listen to their lyrics, if you listen to their music. Times when I've gone and seen Flogging Molly live in concert, and they have the Obama Hope posters up on their guitar amps and whatever stuff, and I see that, and it's fine, it's whatever, it's a visual, it's there, I understand where they are. But never once at a Flogging Molly show did Dave King ever like take 2 minutes between songs to lecture or to preach or to say, you need to think this way, or you need to. They put it in their music. They are what they are, and I disagree, and I couldn't care less that I disagree with them, because the music is good, their live shows are super fun, the band looks like they're having a blast, the crowd is having a blast. I don't care. The moment you lose me is when you take time out of a very expensive concert that you could be playing your music to tell me, oh, you need to think this way. And like you're saying, like if I go to a Rage Against the Machine concert, you know what you're getting into. I mean, they're going to lecture you, they're going to preach at you, it's in the music, it's whatever. That's the way they are. A band like Dropkick, if I'd paid money to go see Dropkick Murphys and I saw this, I would have been like, what the hell? Like, play your damn songs. Play your damn songs. I know your politics are in your songs. I know I disagree with your politics. I don't care that I disagree with your politics, but just put it in your song, because concerts are expensive. You're only going to play for like 90 minutes, so I want you to play as many songs as you can. Dance, monkey, dance.
But then we go back to the original question of why.
Why? Well, Matt had an interesting point here I want to pull up. He said, what we think of as rock musicians are perceived as left-leaning because it was mostly left-leaning people who developed rock. Those who were centrist or right-leaning just kept quiet, which I think is also kind of true.
I get I actually get his thought. That does make sense. It's the vocal ones. That's why you think all musicians are, because the ones who talk, they're
louder. Well, and then Jay the Deep Minded here, she also said, since the 60s, conservatives have tended to be censors of and abandon the arts, which I think is kind of a thing too. There's there is a sense of people who are like really deeply religious, really, really conservative, they look down on the arts. They think that it's a waste of time, a waste of effort, whatever. They want you to go to college and get a job and stuff. So it's like trying to find that balance of you can still be conservative, but still, oh, I want to learn how to play guitar. I want to paint. I want to write.
Go to college. That's every freaking liberal out there.
Yeah, and then someone else pays for
degree.
it. Let's see what here. Jacob Ironside. Liberals are saying Republicans are a danger to our democracy, and I think yes, we are, because we live in a republic. Well, good luck convincing people of that one. Mag says it's all about emotions and feelings. Yes, this is where we're at. This is where we've reached a point where logic has been thrown out the window. Biology textbooks have been thrown out the window. History textbooks have been thrown out the window. It's all about how you feel. And even Stephen, like you, I didn't actually mean to say something super cheesy like that. But Stephen, you said that earlier when you're talking about like body autonomy, and if people, they want to change this, that, and the other. I'm of that mentality too, of like, if you're a consenting adult and you're of a certain age, whatever you want to do, it does not affect my life in any way. I don't care what you do. I am issues.
The dissenter in the group.
I have issues when it's children and the parents are like projecting it and there's whatever. But at the end of the day, from a legal standpoint, maybe this is the libertarian in me. From a legal standpoint, I say it doesn't affect me. I don't care. But the problem is now we have this thing of, define what a woman is. It's like, well, what are they teaching in biology classes in school now is my question. Right. Beyond that of like, it might not affect me, but now when we're saying that we can no longer define what a woman is, I'm like, well, what does a high school biology textbook say?
And this is where my dissenting viewpoint is going to come in. I don't agree with that. And I'm not angry with you. We're not going to fist fight next time you come over. Not about that.
That might be fun.
But the why I have a problem with the issue in general is that it actually is affecting you now, because it doesn't stop with that, because none of it stops with that. The broken window theory, the slippery slope, the things that they said, this will never happen. Well, F me, over the last few years, all this will never happens are happening.
Right.
So you can't just say it's fine. It doesn't affect me, because it in fact does. It may not affect you super directly, but indirectly it's affecting you a great deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the slow creep that really it becomes a slippery slope. It's the angle of that slope has been getting steeper and steeper, and now it's just a cliff edge. And that cliff edge has become the divide between two populations on the planet. One that is just like, what the hell is going on, man? I got to wake up tomorrow morning and go to work. And the other side is just like, well, you're a Nazi if you go to work.
That is actually a typical argument.
I should clarify a little bit in that I say it's like, I'm not sitting back and saying this is fine. I'm saying from a legal standpoint of, should we allow it? Sure. If someone is over the age of 18, do whatever you want to your body. You can get a tattoo, you can get a piercing, you can cut your ding dong off, whatever. I don't know. But the flip side of that
is those are okay. Another one leads to a lot of
hold on though. I say, but at the end of the day, don't for 1 second sit there and try to force me to act like this is natural or normal or whatever. You're free to do what you want. Like, it's your body. You can do it. You can whatever. But I can still have my opinion to say that's weird.
No, and agreed, but they're telling you can't have that opinion anymore.
Right.
Well.
Right.
That's where I will push back. I'll say you can do it, but don't try to make me think a certain way.
Slightly subverted, but now it's leading to other things that are not unrelated. People who want to get their legs amputated, get an arm chopped off.
Hey,
these things
you better get
happening.
used to that, Roman, because there's a day and an age coming up very, very quickly. The Army research and development departments, military research and development departments have made full contact, fully functional, computerized, nerve contacting, cybernetic arms and legs possible. And we will see people replace their arms and legs. We will see that happen in our lifetimes.
If it's going to happen, combat injury or part of an accident,
I'm saying it's going to happen
as a voluntary measure.
Choice. Yep, it's going to happen.
Completely. That's that
Well, that's the other side of this slippery slope, Roman. And as much as
Yeah.
I agree with you on
Yeah.
a conservative line, the other side of the slippery slope is eliminating freedom altogether, eliminating
wish I
body
had
autonomy. Because when they started talking about flipping over Roe v. Wade, I was like, you guys better be careful, because the only reason why we were able to attack the government about whether or not we could wear or not wear a mask was because we had choice over our bodies. And now we don't have that anymore. So it's weird. We are standing on a pinnacle right now. We're standing on a cliff edge with slopes dropping off very cleanly in both directions. Hyper militarization or hyper liberalization. And neither one of them is good. You know, I'm a Buddhist at heart, and I think Christ was too. And it's just that, you know, the middle road is the best. That is the way, the middle road, you know, where
The one that doesn't
everyone is
exist anymore.
accepted. You know, because back in the day,
I wish it did.
I actually got slapped in the side of the head in my first grade English class for using my left hand to write. Okay, that's how far back all of this nonsense goes. And the Jewish community, you will be kicked out of the Jewish orthodoxy if you have a tattoo. You're not supposed to desecrate God's creation. So if you get a tattoo, you will not be buried as a member of the Jewish Orthodox.
Right, I have heard that. Yeah.
No, I mean, you want to say their rules, but it's their rules.
We have freedom of religion in our Constitution. So if you start eliminating freedoms that interact with our Constitution, then you're basically contaminating the Constitution the same way they are. I want to ask both of you, when was the last time you ever heard a celebrity, an entertainer, a media personality, or a politician use the word equality? Haven't they transformed it? Yeah, they got rid of it and turned it into equity. We don't even use the same term anymore.
It's a garbage freaking phrase, a garbage word. I know you hate garbage. It is a dung heap word.
It's one of those things too, where it's like I wish I had the clip from The Princess Bride where he's like, that word, you keep saying it. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Exactly.
I don't think people fully understand what they mean by equity.
Or what it means to use that word.
Right. Like equality means everyone has the same opportunity. You have the same opportunity to go to school. You have the same opportunity to get a job. You have the same opportunity to work hard and make a good life for yourself, however much effort you want to put into it. But it depends on the effort that you put into it. Equity now says that, well, it doesn't matter when you started and it doesn't matter how much effort you put into it, but everyone arrives at the finish line at the same time. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I have a problem with that because I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and as soon as you want to try to call me a this or that, whatever, most of them were white. So sit down. I've worked with a lot of people over the years that I've worked a hell of a lot harder than them, and we get treated exactly the same. We get the same raise every year. We get the same benefits. We get the same treatment. They don't get disciplined. I don't get rewarded. I don't get promoted. So it's like I work harder and the other person gets the same treatment that I do. That's equity. And I'm sorry, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, you know what's the real problem? Anybody who owns a home knows what the actual definition of the word equity means. Okay, you have equity in your property, right?
No, I
do.
How
do the real estate agents feel about this alteration of the definition of the word equity? Because the banks also use the word equity, and it doesn't mean everybody gets to the finish line at the same time. It means actually the opposite.
Mags used the word actually.
Goodness gracious.
I think we're all using the word actually right now. It's all right, Mags.
Actually.
This whole thing is this whole thing, and as I described earlier, when you try to use logic to deal with an illogical situation, it makes your head explode. My head's exploding. Because none of this has a logical base. And that's a very intentional thing, and we've talked about that before. This is all part of a specific design, so that home ownership, People don't want, because some people are really against private home ownership. They want us all living in beehives downtown.
Wait, I haven't actually heard that one yet. People are against private home ownership.
Oh God, yes.
I can only imagine that it's probably the people who can't afford to buy a home.
Like Falcon.
Yes, like Falcon. God, what
I'm just trying to bring it back to the subject. Just trying to bring it back to the topic of entertainment.
Oh, Lord. But the problem is it's all so intertwined now.
Yes.
And it didn't used to be. Remember, entertainment used to be an escape mechanism. It was something you did so you could shut off your brain from your worries of your day and your week and just be in someone else's world for a minute and just enjoy it, be it music, be it sports, be it a television program or film. And now there is not one of those areas that is not infected with this. Whatever the hell is.
The entertainment landscape when we were growing up used to be a vicarious thing. We would live vicariously through these superheroes, through these action heroes, through these music superstars. We would see them up on stage and be just like, I can be that cool. I can get the ladies, I can do that. I could save my mom. I could save my children.
Get
I could
to the
be a
chopper.
hero. Yeah. And by doing that, you by living vicariously through these characters, we took some of those things onto ourselves and became better people for it. So
ideals. And that's another thing that is, they don't like ideals now. This is another part of the entertainment industry, I think. Advertising. Remember the ideals of the male and female model, what they used to look like.
Yep.
And what they look like now. There's a Calvin Klein ad that's making the webs right now, where they have the old Calvin Klein ab. They don't have those anymore. Calvin Klein ad that had these two beautiful people, a man and a woman, in underwear in the ad. And then they show a modern day version of it where it's still a man and a woman loosely based, but they don't look like ideals. They look like someone who really likes nachos. And that's the ideal. I know. Don't fat shame. Well, I don't know. Are heart attacks cool? Are diabetes cool? No, they're
and I think I've seen the post that you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure the quote man in the ad is the pregnant man.
Mother of Christ.
Yeah, it's bizarre. We've come a long way since Fight Club, haven't we?
Pain.
Yeah, I don't think it's ironic that Fight Club came out when it did. It's kind of bizarre. It's kind of bizarre. And I wanted to bring something up. This is like a visual that's been kind of annoying me for a while now. Okay, before 9/11, right? We all started getting widescreen TVs, right? Those were just starting to become a thing, and we would watch older movies for older television sets, and there was a black bar on either side of the image, right? So pre 9/11,
right?
Correct. Yeah, those two bars are pre 9/11 information, right? So the towers are up on either side of your screen. After 9/11, all of those films on a regular TV set are top and bottom. The two towers are
widescreen.
Yeah. So it's like, I find that really ironic that even media has this ghost, this shadow of the Twin Towers built into them.
Yeah.
It's just me as an artist being freaky. I can't help myself. It's just something I noticed that I thought was uncanny. It's just one of those other earmarks that pre-2001, the bars are on the left and right. Post-2001, all media made before 9/11 appears to have bars on the top and bottom. It's like, it's strange. It's strange.
Well, we got Devin here in the chat stirring up the pot. What's up, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. And yes, we are a bunch of conspiracy theorists.
Devin, by saying that, what you're saying is that those men from Saudi Arabia were not capable of planning and organizing that event on their own. And that takes away from them.
Anybody who
might want to
knows
check
about
yourself a little bit.
anybody who knows about Charlie Wilson's war and how
I've
we
never,
fought,
I've never seen that, so I'm not familiar with it.
you'd probably be better off listening to a documentary on the subject.
Okay.
But Charlie Wilson was a yes man in the Texas Congress or in the Texas Senate. I may be mistaken there, but he was a yes man, and he had like crazy powers, and he used the intelligence apparatus to bring guns to Afghanistan to fight the Russians during the 80s. So anything that happened on that September morning was partially educated and partially defined by that action during the 80s. There's no way to get around it.
That's fascinating. So that was I know there was a film, and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Tom Hanks?
Yeah, it's Tom Hanks and
No,
Philip Seymour
he's in
Hoffman
everything.
and
Throw sticky, hit a movie with Tom Hanks in it.
Wait, are we talking about Saving Private Ryan or what happened here?
no, we're talking about Charlie Wilson's war.
I thought we were
a
talking
film called-
about. I'm
But,
joking. Kidding. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fuck you up. I was just. I made a joke.
Crying out loud! I can't remember
everything's
her
all
name.
messed.
The girl, the
everything's all
woman
messed up,
from Pretty Woman. I can't remember her name. She's
Julia
in it as
Roberts?
well.
Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts is in it as well.
She is.
She plays a
delightful.
hyper conservative who says that we never should have stopped. At the end of World War II, we should have just mowed over Russia while we were at it.
Actually, Patton thought the same thing.
Yeah. And who knows? It might have been an interesting world if we had done that.
Well, let's see. What things aren't going wrong at that point? Well, MacArthur wanted to go in and take out China.
Yep.
Back in the
And
day.
look at us now.
So, I'm not saying maybe they were right. I'm saying it's an interesting thing to ponder.
Yeah.
For those agencies who are watching us right now.
It's a
we
concern,
definitely
as
need to
in
spend down
CERN
money.
hyper collider.
Ugh.
So
Lord.
Devin's chiming in here. It's a very interesting podcast to check out. It's the Martyr Made podcast on Ukraine. Oh yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole on.
I'm not gonna start talking about that because I don't want to go to jail.
So here's I'm gonna we're talking about wanting entertainment that doesn't have any kind of agenda to it or anything. I'm gonna cleanse our palates real quick and then we can go back to I don't know, maybe
I love me some SpongeBob. Is this the butterfly?
You young rascals! A merry hunt you've led us on, and now we find you feasting and smoking.
We are sitting on a field of victory, enjoying a few well-earned comforts. The salted pork is particularly good.
Salted pork.
That's just a way to cleanse the palate. There, we got something good, and
Salted
there's
pork.
Devin stirring the pot again.
Thank God they made those movies when they did.
Yeah.
You could be right. You could be right. Although,
Yep. His square pants are awfully German, aren't they?
So, guys, it looks like Mags has to take off. Thank you
Oh.
so much for tuning in and being here.
Yes, Mags, thank you.
Have a good one, Max.
Always great having you in the conversation. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
Mags is one of the nicest people on the interwebs. She's fantastic.
And every time she does a test stream on YouTube, she gathers the largest crowd. It's unbelievable how that happens. She's just
Do we
like,
need to start
I was
getting on
just
her
trying to
live
run a
streams or-
test. It's so funny.
Interesting.
All of a sudden, there's like 50 people in the chat. Just, oh, I saw you were streaming. It's like, Jesus Christ, Mags.
It's Mags.
Literally magnetic Mags.
We do. Everybody loves Mags. So I'm glad Lord of the Rings was made when it was, because you've seen what happens, in the modern era of the Harfoot, which is what you get when you make a hobbit dirty and stinky and don't have a license for it.
Yeah.
So Lord of the Rings. I have no idea. You know what I don't know about Peter Jackson? What his politics are, and I like that. I like not knowing because I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I know what Tolkien thought. He was largely against industrialization. That's kind of,
Yeah.
that was kind of the gist of it.
Which is crazy. Yeah, it's Peter Jackson's politics are basically New Zealander.
Right. Yeah. Like people
'Cause
forget
he's
a lot
from
of
New
times that like
Zealand.
not everyone's American.
Well, and we talked about it before. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash is a great example. He was very contrary to the government in a lot of different ways. And he was very pro Native American, and just a lot of, I guess what at the time were controversial things.
Right.
But what he wasn't was anti-American. He was never that.
Right.
He was very pro-prisoner for
was a patriot.
He was just, he actually was looking out for the other guy, and that's what he cared about, that in the right way, not about the and not the way that they're doing now with the the road to hell paved with not good intentions. He actually gave a shit, and we don't really see that. We see people who want you to think the way they do because they think that is the only way to think.
Right. So it's actually interesting. I have in one of the notes I put in for this week talking about Alice Cooper,
man bear
who,
pig.
I mean, what did you call me?
Don't listen to your dad.
I'm reading the text or the chat.
Alice Cooper has
Jacob.
talked about this. Like if you actually really look into the life of Alice Cooper, I don't really know what his politics are, but I know for a long time, at least since like the late 80s, early 90s, he's sort of like quietly professed to being a Christian, being a man of faith, believing in God and Jesus Christ, being someone who has gotten clean and sober himself and has spent a lot of his days helping other struggling rock stars go that same path of getting clean and sober, and then whatever God they want to pray to. But Alice Cooper was the one who said he thinks that rock stars and bands and musicians who like go on political rants and who try to tell their bands or try to tell their fans to think and feel a certain way, Alice Cooper says that they're abusing their power. It's like, you're abusing your platform. You are up there as an entertainer. You are essentially a jester, that you are up there to dance and sing and entertain. And he's just like, if you're gonna get up there and say, oh, you like my music, well then vote this way. He's like, you're abusing your power. You're abusing your platform. You're there to entertain, dance. Like,
Yeah. Yep. But
I want to pull this up real fast.
go ahead.
He was against the automobile, Matt. I mean, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but he was against industrialization, as not just. I mean, you can say the effects of are not necessarily the same as, but I think in this context they probably are. But again, this would probably be a very fun discussion over an awful lot of beer and probably nachos.
which I guess to that, Devin thought that I was clean and sober, but
Yeah.
I can attest that he most certainly is not.
not at the moment.
Neither clean nor sober.
Nor sober.
No,
Possibly
I have
full
not
of
showered
salted
since
pork.
work
No
yet
one
either,
knows.
no.
Oh no, I was talking
Yeah.
about your dirty mouth. That's what I was talking about.
I've actually kept it pretty clean tonight. On Thursday, I went off on a big F-bomb laden rant about the Dropkick Murphys. I kept it more in check tonight. You know, my parents might be watching. I don't know. Sorry, Mom.
Santa Frassin.
And now we've been taken over by the Looney Tunes once again.
You know, to get back onto the music thing and to the and arts and stuff. There's a part of human psychology that creates the teenage mentality. The teenage mentality is trying to break away and create something new for themselves, which is a natural instinct, right? You want to leave the nest, you want to produce on your own, you want to put a roof over your own head and live by your own rules and regulations as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. And the entertainment
sometimes I think
industry,
they don't necessarily want to put a roof over their own head or pay their own
well,
bills, though.
they certainly want a private place to be peaceful and be themselves, right? So
Sure.
a shack, that's why kids build forts in the woods. That's why a guy wants to own his own car. That's why a girl wants her own place. It's because she wants her private space, right? She wants some place to put her stuff where her little sister's not going to fuck around with her stuff, So it's all of that. And the entertainment industry has latched onto that cry for freedom. And in the process of doing so, created an entire industry that caters to people that are trying to kick their parents out of their life, that are trying to not be oppressed by the outside world, that are desperately trying to be whoever they're supposed to be. I don't know who I'm supposed to be, but maybe this rock star legend has the answers, So they're latching onto that.
I definitely feel like I've
reminds me
seen
of, Stephen? Orcs. Orcs were once elves, mutilated and perverted. That idea of almost of a benevolent rebellion, a rebellious phase.
Well, yes, Saruman actually says that flat out to the mountain guys, right?
Yes.
He's like, who forced you into the mountains? Who forced you to live off of rocks and, lose children and wives and people in your family? And, the Rohans, the Rohirrim. So, let's attack them and you'll take back their lands from, the lands that you deserve. And, the whole battle cry happens.
Because they've built something and you've built nothing.
Right.
Oh, it must be their fault that you built nothing.
Right, exactly.
Just real quick, guys, looks like Devin's got to take off. First of all, yes, sadly, I have seen California. Roman and I and Steven all live here.
We
see
and
right.
secondly, looks like he's got to take off for the night. So it's always good having you in the chat, stirring the pot, and we'll talk to you soon.
Is he
Devin.
stirring the pot or smoking the pot? I can't tell.
He's stirring the pot. He's a friend. He's good. But thanks for tuning in, man. It's always good having you in the chat. Have a good rest of your night.
Later, Devin.
Thanks, Salmon.
He's about 3 hours ahead in the great land of Canada.
Canadian.
Canadadonia.
Does he know Zach's? It's a very small country. They must know each other.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know, Devin. Do you know Zach's?
Yeah, it's only twice the size of the United States.
All Canadians know each other. Just
everybody knows that. Oh,
so not true.
Well, obviously Devin's more on the eastern side because he's 3 hours ahead. I don't know where Zach's is.
3 hours ahead. That's close. That's like Eastern Central, but yeah.
I think Zach's is more whatever Central is because that's what he usually advertises as his time. And I know that when he went to the South for vacation, here he was in states that were Central North.
So I hear Matt's got Aaron Lewis to provide the counterexample.
Oh no,
you're several recorded rants that are right leaning. Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I was a fan of Stained when they came out when I was in like junior high school. I know I'm the young guy in the room. But then over the last few years, Aaron Lewis has come out as a solo artist doing country albums and stuff. And part of me kind of feels like it's maybe kind of a bit like he's really playing it up to just pander to the audience. But as someone who didn't really grow up listening to country music much, like his music is good. I do enjoy it. I like his solo music. I've seen him live 2 or 3 times. He gets really drunk and really high and berates the crowd and gets kind of belligerent. Because I think he's kind of playing the whole outlaw thing. I think he's playing the whole outlaw thing a little too hard. But here's what I can say about Aaron Lewis. Here's one thing that I can say that I definitely appreciate about his shows is that the lights go down, the band comes out, he comes out, and the band is kind of noodling around playing behind him, and he walks up to the microphone and he says, "Any of you gentlemen in the room are wearing a hat, I ask that you'd please remove it and place it over your heart. And anyone else." And long story short, I'm paraphrasing here, but Aaron Lewis starts every single one of his concerts by having the crowd recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I think that pretty much says everything you need to know about the rest of the night, where it's like, if you walk into his show and you aren't a patriot, you're going to immediately be offended and be bothered, and you're going to want to leave the show. And again, I don't think being a patriot is partisan. I don't think it's, you have to be a conservative or you have to be a liberal. It's like, we can all come together and we can all love America. And if you go to a concert, you should be able to. You should be able to be a libertarian, third party, Republican, whatever. But if you can go to a concert and you listen to this guy's music and you say, I like this guy's music, and you go to his show and he starts the show out by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're offended by that, then right away it's like, you are not a patriot. I don't care who the fuck you voted for.
Right.
If you're offended by the Pledge of Allegiance, like...
To clarify, the definition of a patriot is anybody who wants to defend the land they're standing on.
Yes.
Okay? That doesn't require a banner. That doesn't require a Pledge of Allegiance. If you're living on certain lands and you're like, get the hell off my lawn, you are a patriot. Okay? A patriot to your small little bubble. Okay? These people are trying to gain their country back, but they don't see themselves as defending their country. Even that is hypocritical. I don't, what are they standing on if not this country? I just don't get it.
I just think anyone who's trying to basically say, kind of to like bring it back around to our original topic of where our country was immediately post 9/11, whether you believed it was an inside job, whether you believed other people commandeered these planes and did this terrible thing to our country, whatever it was, like at the end of the day, if you can't get behind the message of, united we stand and let's come together and let's be united, like that's I think, that patriotic pride that is missing right now. So like if I go to a concert, and especially a country show, if you're going to see a country artist, someone starts with the Pledge of Allegiance, like you kind of know, again, it's like walking into a Rage Against the Machine concert. Like you kind of know what you're walking into.
You know what you're getting into.
But to bring people together, to unify people, and at the end of the day, to say, like, I don't care who you voted for, I don't care what your politics are. It's like, if you love America, if you love this country, if you love where you live and you want to defend it, whatever, like I think that's essentially being a patriot. Is it like I'm grateful to be here, I'm proud to be here, and yeah.
I don't think Aaron Lewis, back in his days with Stain, there's no way he could have done what he does now and had a career. He's able to do it now because he had a career. So he's established. People know who he is. And the people who are going to see him know, like they know who he is because of his time with Stain. Pardon me.
You got the coof.
Alien coming out. So he is able to express himself now in a way he wasn't able to before, because he wouldn't have an audience right now had he not been part, or at least not in the probably not. I have to say probably. I mean, weird things happen all the time, but that definitely put him in a forefront, so you knew who he was. And then he had that transition over to country, he was probably a fan of it all his life, but he was able to actually play country and make money doing it and all of that. Good on the guy. I mean, and yes, he does do what they do, except he does it for the other side. I mean, balance. There is no balance in the force anymore. The rebels are losing. The Empire is definitely winning.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
I know.
Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Have we exhausted the topics for the night, or?
Yes.
I
look at my monitor and I'm like, yeah, probably. And this was a good topic run, though. It's an interesting thing. The sad thing is we can't have, or we could, but we don't know any. If we had an equal amount of other side folk Stephen, I think you're a largely I would say more centrist certainly than I am. I'm more right leaning.
Yeah, well,
So we have,
God, back in the 70s and 80s, I was considered hard left.
so we'd have a referee, and then you get a couple from the other side over. It would actually be nice to have a discussion. The problem in my head is I don't know how long it remains a discussion, and how long it is till John and I are just doing this.
Yeah, I think
Well,
this was good.
well, the
And,
building
and
blobs go on the
Well,
other side, and we're all
the reason why I'm no longer considered hard left is because I have this strange quality in my mind called
Hmm.
logic.
oh,
And
how
as soon
dare
as
you.
logic was taken out of the discussion,
Yeah.
I left, which was about 5 years before discussion came off the table for discussion.
Right.
You know, now we don't even have
Discussion.
gender as a basis of discussion. We can't even say man and woman without getting into trouble. Black
Right.
and white are badges that you wear. They're no longer
Yeah.
colors we're trying to get past.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's where, I think this was still a pretty good conversation. It's like, Roman, I think you're probably the most right leaning. I'm right next to you, where it's like I'm kind of middle of the road, right leaning. Steven, obviously you kind of have some differing opinions, but this was good. I think this was a good kind of push and pull. And that's the way it should be. We should still be able to have civil conversations, even if we disagree on little things here and there or whatever. We're still finding common ground on, just like we keep coming back to Johnny Cash. It's like whatever Johnny Cash's opinions were of the government, at the end of the day, it's like he was a patriot and he loved his country. And I think the three of us, at least, I mean, I speak for myself, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I think we can at least speak for that much. It's like we love where we live and we're grateful for where we live. And whether you love or hate the government, you can at least love your country and have that.
I didn't wear that flag on my arm for 30 years for nothing.
And, I know you always hate it when people say this, but given the topic subject, the topic and everything, whatever, thank you for your service and what you did. Because when I was 18 years old, I was a little bit of a shithead. Looking back on my life, I wish I had joined the military, even if I had only done 4 to 6 years. It was one of those hindsight things, but I think when I was in high school, I probably listened to a little too much Rage Against the Machine, which is a problem.
An honor and a privilege. I got to do my bit for God and country.
Thank you for what you did, and now you get to enjoy your. Hey, you have the same koozie that I.
Same meetup, same
koozie. But yeah, I think that's what it a lot of times comes down to is at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what your politics are. But if you can at least want to advance the life of your fellow man and love your country and, but that's where we were post 9/11. Now, if you wave the flag, if you support the Stars and Stripes, you're a racist, you're an ist, you're a phobe, you're a whatever, and I don't know anymore.
Brace yourselves for the ride ahead, boys.
People say that, it doesn't represent me, it's oppressive. I'm like, okay, well, the fact that you're able to even say that, just leave it there.
Yeah.
Stop applying logic, my friend. Stop it.
Yeah. So, and so like that, like with Steven, you're saying that, you used to be considered this and now you're not, whatever. I mean, even
the
Bill
funny
Maher.
thing, I never stopped being that same mindset. I consider my philosophical opinions to be the same. I was always under the opinion that if we were going to progress, it was going to be in a Starfleet Federation kind of framework where everything and anything was to be accepted if it was intelligent enough to understand the golden rule, and that is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So
yes.
That's it. I mean, you don't need many rules and regulations in your toolbox to be a human being to each other. It's actually kind of simple.
Well, and again, I think it's interesting you're saying how it's like you used to be considered this, but now you're this. But in your mind, it's like you haven't really changed your stance on things. So myself, and especially Roman, I know we've talked about this in person many times, our thoughts and feelings on Bill Maher is that, I'm still not the biggest fan of Bill Maher in general. However, Bill Maher has always famously been a very, very left-wing, liberal talk show host, whatever. And in recent years, people are starting to actually try to accuse Bill Maher of, why are you going more right-leaning? Why are you more conservative? Why are you whatever? Even Bill Maher, his own words out of the horse's mouth, Bill Maher is like, I'm still a Democrat. He's like, I haven't changed. He's like, the left has gotten so wacky that you think I've gone right-leaning. He's like, I haven't changed, but the Democrats have. Like,
right. Yeah, this is why, and I wrote this in the chat to Matt. We were having a bit of a discussion in the chat over here, but I wrote this in the chat that this slippery slope that we're standing on, the back in the 50s and 60s, the right wing was doing this to the left.
Right.
And they were even doing it to the soft center, which was basically the entire middle class at the time, which is how we got the 60s in the first place. That's how we got John Kennedy. That's how we got the space race. And that's how we got the freedom movement as well, and libertarian movements, and feminism for that matter too, because it's like, why shouldn't my wife have the same say in everything? I mean, she's my wife, for crying out loud. But now we can't even say the word wife without having a problem. So,
because you're not a biologist.
But what I wrote in the chat was, if you look at this in a big perspective, in a longer perspective, like 1776 to 1976, and then 1976 to present day, you get a totally different look at this whole thing. I mean, back in the Civil War times, if you were living in the South, you were wrong, period. End of sentence,
Yeah.
And I think the present confusion that I think is almost palatable is, okay, we have this term red flag, right? Back in the 60s and 70s, we used to use the term pinko or red to mean communist.
Yeah.
And yet, present day, the Conservative Party is the red party.
That didn't used to be the case. That changed. The networks made a decision to change that altogether because they all work together. The conservatives used to be the color blue. If you go back and you watch from some era past, that was the case. Then they changed it over. And that was because a certain party, which I won't name, didn't want to be associated with the color red because their ideals were starting to move in that same direction.
Oh, gee, isn't that a historical landmark? I am so surprised that the media would do such a thing.
What?
Good grief. Did that really happen? I totally missed that. Did that really happen? Is that true? What year are we talking?
I am not making that up. Go back and look, and you will see.
I got to look that up. That's incredible. That's an incredible point of view because it's true. They must have been attacked. They were the red party, and now we're the red party.
That is not by accident.
It's just another one of those obvious things in all of this where it's just like, you guys got to be kidding. Can't you see it's like a bold-faced lie right on the face of it? Everything you're saying is just wrong. It's flipped on its head.
What?
Men or women, dogs and cats living together, total anarchy.
Our pets' heads are falling off.
My dogs are eating the cats and my cat is eating chicken. Whatever.
Oh, guys. Well,
that got so weird so fast.
Yeah,
that got really weird so fast.
My fish is into
I think
yogurt.
This is I kind of feel like this is probably as good a time as any to go ahead and cash this in. I can see that Roman is sweating his face off. And
what do you mean?
He might have actually
Not just my face, buddy.
Roman might have actually just lost 10 pounds during this live stream. So
So Mrs. Roman of the Empire will be having some 6-packs any day now.
Still got to do some sit-ups.
Not good.
There's still a lot of whiskey and cigars to be had during the week.
I don't live a healthy lifestyle anymore. It's not good.
Don't. Yeah, it's not good. And I'm right there with you. But as always, I have everyone's stuff linked in the description of this video where you can find everyone on Twitter, YouTube, whatever. But last minute, any pressing things anyone wants to plug? Roman,
I think,
what do you got for
Stephen, are you going to be on tomorrow with FFSI?
Yes, that's why I'll let you go first, because I'm usually somewhere near you, even if
Yes.
it's on
We're very
Wakasashi's
close.
Tea House. We're very
Yeah,
close.
oh, that was so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah, so tomorrow, FFSI, with the UK group that Stephen and I hang out with, is going to be putting on a broadcast at 12 Pacific Standard, talking about the 1970 sci-fi drama Space 1999, which ironically was on 13 September in the year 1999 in this fictitious universe. So
And
that's
that's why we're
this,
doing it
the
on
broadcast
Tuesday.
is going to be, it should be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a hoot. I am still working on a topic for Thursday. I have an idea that I'm working with where I'd like to, even though my son doesn't know what they are, look at the television and film adaptations of the author Philip K. Dick.
Yeah, I don't know who that
I'm
is.
heavily
But
leaning
you're kind
that
of a
way,
dick
so.
sometimes, though.
You'll probably know most of the movies, though.
Yeah, and
Probably,
that's the thing. You
but
are going to
I
know the
haven't.
movies, even though you may not know where they came from.
I haven't taken the time to look into the movies yet, but I just really like to trigger Roman.
Yeah, and regarding Tuesday, we're just going to be looking at the first episode called Breakaway. Basically, the pilot and the launching of the franchise. And that episode is available on YouTube for anybody in the audience who would like to discuss along with us. The full episode is available on YouTube to watch, which is how I'm going to get reacquainted myself, because I haven't seen it in years. But God, that show
hadn't
is
seen
legendary.
it in probably 40 years, Stephen, and I watched it over the weekend.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how many pieces of technology just spring up out of the background? You're like, wow, opening doors with your cell phone. Just really
the big takeaway is don't store atomic waste on the moon. That's
yeah, it might turn into a rocket.
There's so many things I want to talk about tomorrow, so I'm going to save them.
Yeah, it's
about
great.
a lot of things, and I hope I don't make anybody mad because it was just so goofy.
Oh, Jay the Deep-Minded. That's Blade Runner.
That is Blade Runner.
See, my son knows some things. Not
well,
many
I will
things,
say this,
some
John,
things.
that if you have access to audiobooks in any sort of way, most of Philip K. Dick's works can be put down in the same length of time it takes to watch the news. They're all short stories primarily, or they're part of shorter stories. But you can get a gist of most of what we're talking about just from, I mean, Man in the High Castle is quite literally, I think, about 30 pages, so it's really short stuff. Plus also a lot of the films are really, really good. Scanner Darkly is a rotoscoped animated feature with Keanu Reeves. Robert Downey Jr., what's his face from Cheers over there, Woody Harrelson.
That was
Ryder is in there.
That was probably like pre-sober Robert Downey Jr.
Philip K. Dick. So
no, it's right around the time he was coming in. He was doing Ally McBeal just before.
I always feel like I want to change the name of the live stream to Triggering Roman. So, sometimes it's just fun to piss him off.
You're not a good son.
You're a piece of shit then, and you're a piece of shit now.
Well, we could actually, change it to Red Tape Mondays.
Then we'd get labeled all sorts of things. Who knows?
But we're just talking about all the red tape we have to go through to dance around all the things Roman hates.
That's unfair. I am not the Ryan Kinnell of this broadcast.
I'm sorry.
I have my own ideas, my own goddamn needs.
You don't like a band named Journey.
Fuck Journey. Fuck him in the neck. Sideways.
Now we've triggered
Roman. Roman, here's what we need to do.
Get out of my way.
What's that? This, my friend, is a pint. It comes in pints. I'm getting one. You've had a whole half already.
Cheers. And I hope your ball fan is treating you well right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
With all that being said, Steven, what do you have coming up this week?
I'm going to be on a show on Thursday at about 5 p.m. with this guy who claims to have a son.
Very well, my friend.
They haven't given me a topic yet, so I'll have no time to do any sort of research. But the
go with
host
what
of
we
that
just
show
talked
is a little
about.
confused and very angry. I don't know why
He
he's
is
completely
very
surrounded
angry.
by toys.
I've heard about this channel. He is very angry.
That's not fair.
Hey, I at least brought a topic for today. You know,
I'm teasing. I'm
I
totally
know.
teasing.
I had a rough fucking week.
If I could
may
truly
just be a
break the
fucking-
fourth wall, I would just pet the sides of your face and kiss you on the forehead. So, you know.
Yeah, it may be a free for all again, like it was last week. I honestly,
and that'll be fun.
I don't know. It will
It'll be good.
I kind of gotta. I just gotta see it. I'll know tomorrow. I'll
We
tomorrow.
need to just like continue the conversation of the state of entertainment. This seems to be a hot topic.
Well, we can go on about it for a long time. That's the thing, because it does touch so many other things, and I'd like it to stop touching me.
I want to just check really quick. I think, isn't PJ maybe doing a stream on Wednesday?
He is, but I don't know what it is this Wednesday.
Let me see
they
if
got
he's
their-
got it scheduled yet.
They have their list of movies that they do every Wednesday, and some of them I've seen, some of them I haven't seen, so I don't pop into the ones that I have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
And
right.
then, but he always has his Saturday stream at 12 hours.
So Wednesday noon GTM or GMT, I mean 8. It's
noon PST,
noon Pacific time.
It's always 8 Greenwich Mean Time.
8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. PJ Maybe's channel will be discussing a feature-length film. The last two we did were Forrest Gump and Keeping Mum. Keeping Mum was basically a British film, filmed during the time that Miss McGonagall was filming Harry Potter. She's one of the stars in the film, including Rowan Addison, and a few other people. Good classic, what they call gallows humor, British comedy that we discussed last Wednesday. So, like I said, I'm going to look. I'll probably be posting as soon as PJ gets it up there, but that'll be Wednesday. So it's a full week. I can't believe I literally started streaming with people, and now I've got a full week. It's bizarre.
As a caveat before we get off, I may not be on at all next week. My daughter of the Empire is going to be visiting, and we haven't seen her since Christmas. So depending on how much she wants to endure her dad, I may or may not next week. So just as a heads up for those who continue to watch.
So we should invite a few Vikings over, John, and have a party in the garage.
Sounds like a great time. We'll get Max down here. We'll get, we'll have a big party. Yeah.
Ahoy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I am John, the creative blue collar guy. This has been another episode of Mixtape Mondays with Roman. I did it right. And Steven Ransom. We'll talk to you guys again on Thursday, or I don't know, whenever the next time we live stream.
Jesus.
But
it was going so well.
I've been drinking since 2:00. Don't judge me.
I know.
All right, guys.
Try to raise them right.
Peace out. Have a good rest of your night. Good rest of your week. Oh,
words
God,
are
words
hard.
are hard.
Good night. Good night.
Later, guys.
Be excellent to each other.